Welcome, everyone. We are here with some really interesting guests, and we are going to learn about IHG Hotel and Resorts, how they're using Google RCS. And we have two experts with me. I'm Jen from Quiq, but more importantly, we have Carter, who's Director of Messaging from IHG, who's going to talk about all that they have done to really improve their guest experience. And then, of course, Alex from Google to really dig into Google RCS and how it works, how it can help you, all of the great things that you may want to know because it is such a cool technology and it is really improving how people are interacting with the brands that they love, the hotels that they love through text. And we're doing something a little different this time. We don't want to have a pitch. We don't want to have a slideware, that we're just making you sit through. Instead, we wanted to make this really interactive. So we are making this more like a fireside chat. And there's our little fire. And it's really just going to be a conversation. And what that means too is that you have access to Q&A. And please drop in questions as we go through. If they're in the flow of the conversation, I may bring them in right away, or we may save some of them for the end. So we plan to chit chat for 30, 40 minutes and leave enough time that we can really engage with all you folks that are here and get your questions answered so that you can dig into what this all means and how it can help you in your business. And with that, I'm going to dig in and get started. And I'm going to start with Alex from Google. So, RCS for Business gaining a lot of momentum. For anyone who just doesn't really know what this thing is, walk us through, give us a quick version. What makes it different from text messaging? Why is it so exciting?
Yeah, thanks, Jen. So, hi, everybody. So, RCS stands for Rich Communication Service. It's the successor to SMS. It offers, rich and conversational features branded right into your native messaging box. We're talking about iMessage and Google Message here. So, your brand is front and center. You have your brand name, your logo, your colors that are, as a sender ID, as opposed to, a generic short code that is not really obvious to recognize as a user. And most importantly, as I mentioned, it's cross-platform. So you launch, you turn on your device, RCS is available right away. You can start chatting with your friends and family, but also most importantly, with your favorite brand. And so you'll experience that. We'll give example in this presentation of rich and conversational experiences with IHG within RCS. So really excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah, and what's driving brands to adopt? Have there been changes in the last year or two that have really sort of accelerated growth?
Yeah, sure. So RCS has been actually it's an old protocol. It's been around for more than 20 years, but Google has invested in this technology back in 2015. We've rolled out RCS across carriers first, deploying RCS in their backend, and then we also worked with OEMs to deploy a unique client actually that supported RCS. So now on Android, on every Android devices, you have one single messaging app, Google Message, that supports RCS, and of course, now on iOS as well. So in 2023, Apple announced their support of RCS, which was a game changer in markets like the US, where you've got 50% market share or more than of Apple devices, right? So this has been really a catalyst for RCS adoption in the US. Um, I would say, and because it's in your inbox, it's persistent, right? So at any point in time, as a user, you can re-engage with your RCS agent, as we call it. So an agent is just a representation of your brand on RCS. So you can re-engage with it as you would do with your any text app that you have. So it's persistent, it's there, as opposed to other channels such as web chat, for example, where when you're done with your conversation, the conversation disappears. So these, I think, are the two game changer and the two major advantages of RCS. And we're going to speak about more stuff. How we Google, we encourage also we foster bot discoverability with user-initiated conversation from search entry points. So yeah, these are a lot of the triggers that that make RCS that have drove adoption of RCS in the last 2 years, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty exciting. All right, so let's talk with Carter about your RCS story, and maybe we start from the beginning. So, what did guest communications look like before a couple years ago, before RCS?
Sure, Jen. And by the way, hello, everybody. Um, so 4.5 years ago, if you wanted to interact with IHG, you had two options. You either called or we had web chat. And that's kind of the traditional where almost everybody was back then. But then we decided to launch messaging, and that was in the form of SMS. And we first launched it as an option in our IVR. So if you called our IVR, we'd say, hey, would you rather message with us instead? If you said yes, then the call hung up and you got an outbound message to your handset, and that got you into a conversation with one of our agents. And so that was a great way to start. And then we have since grown the number of channels that we offer pretty dramatically. Obviously, we do RCS now. That's why we're here talking today. But we also did Apple Messaging for Business, and we did WhatsApp. Messaging is our fastest growing channel. It's not our largest by yet. I hope one day it will be. But it is definitely growing quickly. And we still offer SMS, but we hope over time we can shift all that volume into RCS. I'd be happy if one day we no longer had SMS as an option for interacting with customers.
Yeah, and that brings me to my question. What were some of the specific pain points around SMS and that kind of drove you to look for something more?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was an easy channel to start with, and frankly, there weren't a lot of options back then.
Mhm.
But pretty quickly we understood its limitations. The biggest being that the interaction is happening on a short code that has no IHG branding. So, that doesn't really inspire customer confidence. And it's really hard to go back and find that interaction because you don't necessarily remember that a 6-digit code was your conversation with IHG. And then, beyond that, it is text-based, and so it doesn't really lend itself to self-service. Even our customer satisfaction survey, if you want to give us a score between 1 and 5, you actually have to type out 5. You can't just hit a button that says 5 and submit the score. So it's just a bit archaic, and that's not what customers want to do. That customers are used to tapping on things, and and
Yeah.
and, and so again, it was a great way to get started. It proved the use case for messaging, even with its limitations. It was a popular channel, but then as I said, we wanted to grow this, and growing it in SMS wasn't going to be the right way forward. So. We were actually really early adopters of Google Business Messaging, which is now gone and got replaced by RCS. We're excited to see RCS as our new option, and Apple Messaging for Business. And in both of those cases, it's a very graphic rich experience. There's a lot of branding, which does away with this concern, like, am I really talking to IHG?
Right, right.
And so and then we went to WhatsApp, which also does offer some of the same capabilities, though nowhere near as feature rich as RCS and Apple. We launched WhatsApp because we have a very strong presence in Latin America, and we heard pretty clearly from those people that they wanted WhatsApp as an option, and so we love WhatsApp as well, and we'll continue to offer it where that's the customer preference. But we want to expand our reach. We went from being North America only to North America and Latin America, but that is still a small percentage of our overall reach, and so we're looking for messaging channels that allow us to greatly expand who we can offer messaging to.
That makes sense. And was there a specific moment where you or your team said, "Oh my gosh, we need something better than this," or was it just sort of the natural evolution?
Yeah, it was really the natural evolution.
Yeah.
And I will say that, and this is something we can talk about when we talk more deeply about RCS, but while WhatsApp is great, its limitation is that you don't know whether or not the customer has the WhatsApp client on their phone, before they choose to start an interaction with you. And there's a good percentage that they do, but it was not uncommon that they didn't. And so that conversation went off into the oblivion. Like, and they didn't necessarily understand it was because they didn't have the app, and so they just thought, oh well, that was a bad experience with IHG. I'll not do that again. So, again, we're committed to it. But we really need solutions that are integrated in the handset and where we have a high level of confidence that the interaction is going to happen.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And Alex, are you hearing this from other brands like IHG, other enterprise brands? Are these some of the similar things that they're looking at and getting from RCS or looking for RCS for?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen actually a lot of adoption last year, which were related to, this short code, this lack of branding and lack of trust in the brand. And so brands usually start with a, crawl, walk, run approach where they just, adopt RCS to leverage the branded, the verified, and, the logo basically. And
Yeah.
once they realize that, the power of the channel and the ability to have interactive conversation and all that, they quickly ramp up and adopt all these features. Something that I would like to mention is also the analytics. So which is a major a key changer versus SMS, is that on SMS you don't have this, you barely see the delivery, the DLR. Sometimes some carriers do not even share it. So on RCS you can actually measure each and every interaction between the agent and the user. So we're talking about the delivery rate, but also the read rate, the response rate, any interaction between the agent and those the agent features and the user can be monitored. So for retailers, for example, that's really powerful because they, if you swipe through carousels of pictures, of rich cards, you can actually, what's the user like, and you can push content accordingly, according to the user's browsing history within the agent. Similar to, same thing with the tap button and all that. So this is one of the key driver of adoption as well, and one of the reasons why brands are adopting that. Another point that I would like to mention, I think your question was about the friction points, right? So
Yeah.
the friction points are actually, finding the agent has been a friction point. RCS has been an SMS A to P, right? As its name says, we was mostly brand initiated, right? So 90% of the conversation are still brand initiated. So brands reach out to their list of opt-in users, and then for marketing outreach and these kind of things. And so leveraging those entry points on search, and very soon Google Maps as well, you'll have the ability to engage and give the user find the bot right from search, right? So by tapping a button, you handhold them to the RCS agent, and so that's a great way to actually increase and find your bots online.
Yep, it makes perfect sense. And I like what you're saying about how brands are sort of, they start with, just getting the links and the logo on there, and then they start, more and more use more of the functionality. I will say, I had a friend of mine said, well, what's this RCS thing you're doing this webinar about? And I said, oh, well, open your phone and scroll through and you'll see it. And I did the same thing on my phone. And I was like, there's United. They've got
Exactly.
RCS. There's, Thrive Cosmetics. They've got RCS. And you could just see it as you scroll. And it made me realize how much more trustworthy it is for a brand to be communicating when their logo is there, when it's very clear that it is from them. It is a communication with that particular brand. And that's just like the cracking the surface of what RCS can do, which leads me to the best part of this webinar is we're going to walk through, we were just joking, we have a clip for that. So we have a video of what it looks like. And Nathan's going to bring that up for you. And he has said he will also pause. So as we talk through this. So let's see, it's not quite sharing on my screen yet, so we'll get it going. But Carter, help
Yeah,
us walk
let me
through.
let me set the stage about what we're going to go look at. So this is going to be an example of featured snippets, and frankly, this is the thing right now that we're most excited about. Um, uh,
Oh, there it goes.
as Alex mentioned, to message with us, you had to be either in the IHG app or calling the IHG IVR, or you had to be in our chatbot. There weren't really avenues to get into messaging outside of the IHG ecosystem. And so, what's so exciting about featured snippets now we've gone, well outside of the IHG ecosystem. Somebody takes their phone and does a Google search for IHG customer service, or it can be IHG, it could be Holiday Inn customer service. We have many brands. So, and in those search results, they're going to see this button that says "Chat with IHG Hotels and Resorts." Many times, depending on the search, they'll also see the telephone number. So, the two will be right next to each other. And so, with somebody, I've got a mandate to grow messaging. So this allows me to go to the very top of the funnel, again, well outside of anything, that we currently offer at IHG, and identify those people who have first expressed an interest in interacting with us, and then, putting that thing in front of them right there at the point of the search results. So in this example, you see this button. And
Yeah,
then,
and you can see that right there. It says chat with.
right,
Uh,
right. And then, from there, the customer taps that, and it opens up a IHG branded window on their in the native messaging app on their device. So no third party stuff. Like we know it's gonna work. It pops up right there. The customer taps that they want to start the conversation, and then they're chatting with an IHG agent. I would hazard. I'll go on the record as saying I'm pretty certain it is faster to go from messaging in a Google search result to actually talking to an agent than it is to go from getting the phone number in Google search results and then calling and then going into
yep.
the IVR and then yada yada yada. So it is incredibly frictionless, and we get the customer. There's a speed to purpose to getting this customer to the agent so they can start that interaction. And I mean, I got to tell you, and we'll talk about this more. I mean, this shows so well to senior leadership. Like this causes, aha bells to go off over and over again. You don't have to pitch them very hard on this. They see the value of this immediately. More than one of them has realized that from a Google search to an interaction, now we have a foothold in the native messaging app on the customer's device. It's branded IHG. As long as a customer doesn't delete that conversation, it's super easy for them to go back and find it again. So that we hope the next time that they've got a question, and they had a good experience in messaging, they're not even going to bother going and looking for the telephone number. They're just going to come back and find that conversation and start a new one.
Yeah, and this is great. And some of the things you've seen here, if you saw it, there was a carousel of options that the person was able to scroll through. So all of that lovely sort of images and interaction is Google RCS. And of course, you can see here you're interacting with the agent. So at the end of the day, you never need to do anything other than say, "Oh, this day, this whatever, I want to book my hotel." And I don't, if you caught it, it went ahead and booked the hotel, made the reservation, and good to go with a confirmation email. So, really, really cool stuff. So, um, yeah. All right. So let's go on to what kind of response are you seeing? Did you see when you launched this with guests? What were some of the reactions and how did
Well,
it
one of the
go?
one of the favorite pieces of feedback we got, and get it in the CSAT survey, and sometimes we hear it through other feedback channels, is that they didn't even know that this was an option, right? So
Yeah.
again, if you're not inside the IHG ecosystem, if you aren't calling the IVR where we offer you, to go to SMS, you don't necessarily know that this is even an option.
Right.
And so that is the number one thing we hear. Like, I had no idea I could message you. Not just I couldn't, that's one thing, and then to be able to message us from search results, that's incredibly powerful. And yeah, so the CSAT scores are really, really high, which is frankly true across all of our messaging channels. We can talk about that in a little bit, but it's been overwhelmingly enthusiastic. And as I said, there's not a senior leadership person that I've met with where I show this who don't immediately start using it all the time to go, play with it and show their friends, because it is pretty compelling.
Yeah, and one of the things I find compelling about it, and I said in the example of my own personal scrolling through and finding, are the idea that if I never delete this message with this brand that I'm talking to, I could come back and continue the conversation. Are you actually seeing that play out? Are customers doing that?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know of another way to establish an IHG branded beachhead on somebody's device than to start it with this, conversation coming from search. People would kill to have that, so again, it makes it super easy for them to find the conversation. If they've had a positive experience, which they almost always do, that's going to be their inclination the next time. So, this is another reason why I think we're going to see continued growth in the channel because we'll see a lot more repeat utilization now that we've made it a whole lot easier for customers to find it.
Yeah, and I think, what we've seen at Quiq, obviously we have a platform that, AI agents, and we're supporting different channels, and companies use us to basically support across every channel, their entire support and customer experience. And, one of the things we're seeing is this kind of constant conversation is this keeping the context and being able to come back to it, and not have to like repeat yourself or, oh, you remember last time. And I think, globally, AI agents, all of this technology is allowing us to really drive into a much more personalized experience. So then you have customers who feel like, oh, well, I'm chatting with the Holiday Inn and they're my buddies and they're going to help me out and they're going to get me what I need and they're going to answer my questions. And it's that personalization of being able to come back to that conversation and feel known. I think I'm a marketer, so I love the brand aspect of, making people feel like they are a part of your brand. And so wonderful. And we have a question that I think I'm going to drop, and I'm just going to ask you right now because I think it's really interesting, and digging into kind of where we are. And so the question is, how are you defining your messaging strategy for end users on RCS versus Apple Message? Are you thinking of this from a market perspective, as you're doing Latin America with WhatsApp? How are you going to direct the traffic to one client versus the other? Just sort of we're talking about all of the channels that you're able to support, and particularly Google RCS being
Yeah.
fancy, but
That's a
yeah,
great question. So today it's primarily driven by entry points. So
yeah.
feature snippets is the big daddy. It is such a compelling entry point. But to be fair to our colleagues over there at Apple, and we love Apple messaging as well. Apple's got Apple Message Suggest so that if we registered like 47 numbers, 47 IHG 800 numbers with Apple, and so if you if you see a telephone number on the web and you click it, and it's one that's been registered for Message Suggest, a little slider pops up and says you can either message with the IHG or you can call. And so that's another way we can get people into Apple versus RCS. The same is true. We have all of our IHG properties in North America and soon to be in other parts of the world. The property cards in Apple Messaging, in Apple Maps have messaging opportunities there. So that's another entry point. But I do understand. I think the question may be like, are things getting a little disjointed? And maybe they are a little bit. We will begin to kind of solidify our strategy. It'll depend on market. It'll depend on entry point, and start to favor one channel over the other. We like for international, we love the fact that RCS is going to be broadly available internationally, and so we really want to piggyback on that and start offering it more broadly. Another interesting thing that we'll have to see, and this is going to relate to consumer behavior. Just because somebody has WhatsApp on their phone doesn't mean they aren't in scope for RCS. And so, they could begin an RCS interaction with us and it take place completely out of WhatsApp. If they're okay with that, then that's just where the conversation is going to happen. And maybe they find that experience compelling enough that they go back and do the next interaction via RCS instead of WhatsApp. But there's also this geographic constraint. Like we really have focused WhatsApp on Latin America. I think as we grow and offer more international entry points, we're going to start moving away from WhatsApp unless there's something really specific about the market that favors it, and just kind of get more stuff into that RCS channel.
Yeah, that it makes perfect sense. And I think, we're at a stage where there are many different customers and they have many different channels that they want to interact. And I'll make a little plug for Quiq again. So that's one of the reasons that Quiq exists is to basically allow companies to support messaging their customers in whatever channel customers want. So if it's voice, if it's text, if it's Google RCS, and then the company can then balance and manage and keep context. So one of the things that Quiq does that I think is really important is it holds context regardless of what channel you're on. So if you're on WhatsApp, but then you jump to Google RCS, but then you pick up the phone, there's sort of the consistency of context that's held so that whether you're talking to a human agent or an AI agent, they know, who you are and why in this conversation that you're having is continuous, regardless of which channel.
Yeah.
But super, super interesting to think about like how a business thinks, and interacts with their customers on each of those channels.
Well, and another important point and a plug for Quiq is that you guys mask all this complexity for our agents. So our agents, I
Yes.
mean, they get little symbols so they know if it's WhatsApp or Apple, but it's not like we have one platform for Apple and then another platform for RCS. You are kind of the great integrator of these things, and then I got all the routing logic and everything to get it to the agent. The agent handles it. Asynchronous conversations are all kind of handled the same way, and so there isn't really a reason why the agent needs to know which is which. You mask that for a
Right,
moment.
right,
It
right.
simplifies the whole process.
Awesome. Well, let's jump to Alex for a minute. So we saw a lot of what RCS was doing. Can you explain what's happening from the platform side when a guest, send message and all these other entry points?
Yeah, so the on the platform side, we use what we call deep link URL. So when a user clicks on that message button, and they could actually scan a QR code similarly, but there's a deep link URL that is tied to the button, and so that deep link URL will invoke the agent, and it actually includes information such as the agent ID, the shortcode, the fallback shortcode for SMS. So for users that are not RCS capable, they have the ability to fall back on the shortcode experience, SMS experience, and then also the body text, which is the invite message that you showed before in the example, which is the first message that the user will see when they enter into the agent. That triggers the agent actually. So you can set it up within the deep link, and so by clicking on that, it will invoke the RCS agent with all these options, and you can start the conversation. And obviously that's compatible across iOS and Google Message. And so if you're on an iOS device, it will trigger the iOS experience and the agent which shows on the iOS experience, and then similarly on Google Message. So yeah, that's kind of how it works.
And we've got one question that I think would be great. So one of the attendees asked, is RCS available in all markets as WhatsApp?
So RCS P2P is actually available in most of the markets for person-to-person communications. For A2P, so brand to consumer communications, it's not available. It's available everywhere. It's available in a set of priority markets, including a lot of the markets where Apple is present. So we're talking about US, Mexico, Brazil, UK, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and then India is also a very big market. And we also have like scattered coverage with specific carriers in other markets, but like markets with full coverage are the one that I just mentioned. And the reason is historically is because we started in RCS in markets where the Android penetration was higher. So actually Mexico, Brazil, and India were the first market that adopted RCS. And with the rise of the iOS adoption in 2023, obviously many more markets turned on. So we're talking about the US, UK is another big market with iOS penetration. So so about 8 to 10 markets live today, and again we are scaling, and we are following the markets where Apple is adopting RCS to actually launch more markets.
Makes sense. Great to know. And I'm assuming all of this is on your website. So if someone wanted to go in and look at the particular markets and they could reach out to Google and Google
Right.
RCS
So that's
and
not
learn.
that's not publicly available information. That's on the developer's website. But
Got
yeah,
it.
we do make updates for our developers, and certainly if a new market is launching, everybody will hear about it.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. So let's dive into the results. So, Carter, so you've launched a few months ago. What kind of results are you seeing?
Well, one, RCS is quickly becoming our fastest growing channel. So Apple right now is number one just by virtue of how long we've been doing it. But as we consolidate all of our SMS entry points and convert those to RCS, and then like when Google Maps comes online, I mean, I think we will see RCS adoption and utilization grow. And so we fully expect it to be our second largest channel quickly, and then maybe, who knows, it could overtake Apple. We'll have to see. Um,
And did that surprise you? Did the speed of adoption was
no, not really. I mean, we have firmly bought in on messaging. Everybody's excited
yeah.
about it. We are expending a ton of energy and thought around growing messaging. We constantly get inquiries from market managers in other countries asking when it's coming to their town. So there's a lot of hunger for it. There's a lot of desire for it. In fact, here's a really interesting data point. We read all this feedback that we get from around the globe, both from our app and from our web. And every month, one of those current, one of the biggest themes is an international customer on our web wants to get something done, and then we give them a telephone number. And you can read it in the transcripts. I am on your web. I am in your app. Please do not make me call. And right now, we don't have an option for those people. And so that's another big area of focus. We want to make that go away. If you want to be digital, we'll meet you in digital. It's better for us. It's better for you. So the old phone paradigm, we hope as well, starts to diminish as more and more people express a desire to be digital.
Yeah, and I think, when you think about what customers really want, they just want the answer as fast as possible. They just
Right.
want to get the thing done really quickly. And there's certainly a generational thing. My daughter's just about to turn 20, and I'm telling her you need to call to get that resolved. And why do I have to call? Why can't I just text? Like, isn't there a website? Do I have to do this? And whereas, some people would prefer to just give me a person on a phone. And so the more brands can kind of start to build options that make it whatever customers want, they can get. I think the better. Um,
But it is a great paradigm, and I wonder about it all the time because, yeah, I mean, voice is still the lion's share. I
right.
love, but it'll be a while before we eclipse voice. So yeah, all these people are calling, and yet again, based on customer satisfaction scores, not because our agents aren't great, not because nobody likes the experience. Um, this thing in their mind where they feel like, oh, this is going to be the best route to go. And I feel like if you just try messaging, you just might find this to be more to your liking. So
Yeah.
that'll change. I mean, as younger people kind of grow into adults booking rooms, they are going to
Yeah.
regain this preference for digital, and so it is. It is. But in all cases, if the customer wants voice, we're going to offer voice. I just hope over time we can convince more of them that messaging is the better option.
100%. So are you seeing any differences in this like CSAT scores between messaging and voice and the
Oh,
different channels?
yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt, it is several percentage points higher than both web chat and voice. And the remarkable thing is, it isn't like we're going out and recruiting Harvard grads to be our messaging agents, right? But the same pool of agents, and they all have the exact same tools. They have the exact same policies. They all can do the exact same things that you need to get done. And so there's this great parity in terms of what they can do. Where there's not parity is the CSAT associated with it. And so the higher CSAT for messaging, we've always interpreted to be just people's love of convenience and just the fact that we offer that channel. It is allows them to interact with us at their pace and their speed. And if the doorbell rings and they have to step away, they don't come back to find out that the call got hung up on them or the chat agent has ended the interaction. They can just pick up the phone and keep their messaging going, and the agent just resumes where things left off. And I mean, again, who doesn't want to do stuff at their pace? Why do we want to be beholden to what other people think the pace of our interaction should be?
100%. Yeah, I've had a couple interactions where I had a, not with IHG hotels, but I had a chat say 30-minute wait time to chat with someone. I thought,
Yes, yes, yes.
what is AI for? Like, come on. I shouldn't have to wait for anything.
Yeah, and not necessarily. I'm not saying we never have hold times in messaging, but in chat or in voice, you're just kind of stuck there. You don't get to
Yeah,
go do anything else. And the minute you do, this happens to me all the time in chat. If I'm like, oh, I'm going to go multitask, and then I come back, and the person has come back. Are you there? Are you there? And then they end the interaction. So I got to go back and start at ground zero.
exactly.
That doesn't
No.
happen. Yeah, that doesn't happen in messaging.
Yeah. That's great. So, we were talking about your teams, the teams that are handling voice, handling message. Has there been any, did have you increased your team? Are you handling more volume with the same team? How is that working?
Yeah, well, I mean, we definitely have grown. We did 1.2 million messages last year, and expect to do much more than that in our 3-year forecast. Yeah, clearly we've added headcount, but what we don't do is have to add headcount at the same rate that volume's coming in, and that's primarily because of the beauty of asynchronous interaction. So a telephone interaction, and a telephone agent can only help one customer at a time. Uh,
Hmm.
and and uh, and so for as you increase call volume, you've got to increase voice agent headcount. Chat's a little bit better, but not that much better. Chat is still very much a real time interaction. The beauty of asynchronous, we see it in our personal lives when we're sending messages back and forth with our friends, or is that there's a much more natural delay between the agent saying something and the customer responding. And those slices of delay where the agent's waiting allows them to turn around and help the next customer. And so, and that customer's got delays. And so, there's just this ability to handle many more agents, many more customers at the same time. But you're not degrading the customer experience either, because except for maybe the most you know priority issues, and it's hard to think of one in the hotel business. Um, People are kind of pretty keen to kind of wait around and do their own thing, and then the phone's great at notifying you when you got a new message coming in, so you don't miss it. There's nobody who's just ended the conversation because you didn't respond immediately. That ability to do a higher level of concurrency is another great feature of the business case for messaging, and what makes it so compelling.
Very cool. Well, let's switch to Alex. So, would love, we've just heard from IHG the results they're seeing, kind of the different areas that have really improved and what they love about it. How does this compare to other brands, other industries, other folks, customers that are adopting RCS?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, RCS has been mostly brand initiated up until now, right? So these entry points are only launching this year. I mean, actually, end of last year. So we are learning a lot through, what IHG is doing, and actually other brands like United. But to your point, so RCS was mostly used and is still used for a lot for performance marketing. And so we saw a lot of great use cases where with brands like Nespresso or with brands like the LA Rams, who saw a 50% higher CTR than, there are similar campaigns on SMS. Actually, Nespresso saw a 3.7, I think, a higher conversion rate than they did with SMS. So yeah, it's consistent across the board. We do see much higher performance, and again, it doesn't have to be because it doesn't have to be conversational right away. It's just adding this branded logo and all that. You will see an uplift in the CTR because of that trust, right? That is brought by RCS. And obviously, this rich card, this highly engaged content imagery is really what really drives the that higher conversion rate as well. So yeah, we do see this as a consistently across the board and across the verticals.
Yeah.
Now, the new thing in 2026 is obviously the rise of AI and the ability to orchestrate, RCS, AI, and together to actually offer this amazing experience, conversational agentic experience hosted on RCS in your inbox, right? So this is actually what I'm really, really excited about. And I do think that, hearing Carter speak about it, like, what you can measure, the decrease in cost for brands, but also the higher CSAT, all what you can get from this combination of AI and rich channel is really unique, I think.
Definitely. And that actually brings me to one of the questions we had because you started to dig in. I think you were saying Nespresso. Um, so I'm going to read this question from Marie. Do you also use, and this is also for Carter, do you also use RCS for marketing and offers? If so, how do you combine service-oriented messaging and marketing messaging in the same conversation, or do you? And Alex, you just mentioned this sort of the marketing side of RCS that you can use it for offers and proactive outreach and whatnot. Say a
Yeah.
little bit about that, and then we'll jump to Carter and see what they're doing at IHG.
Yeah, so what we've seen a lot is actually those brands that are upgrading their campaign from SMS to RCS. And so usually brands have like big brands have like 3 or 4 shortcodes. Some of them are for, particular set of, marketing campaigns, and others are for customer care. And so usually the adoption starts with upgrading those shortcode onto a specific agent that handles this conversation. But we do see also brands that are adopting RCS as a multi-channel kind of use cases. And so doing like marketing use cases supported in the same agent as customer care, which is actually where you can really benefit of the full power of RCS, where you not only do the engagement, you benefit from the search entry points on Google, start engaging with the agent, and then like 3 days later the brand can re-engage with it, and so that becomes like a real like two-way channel, not only a one-way transactional marketing outreach channel. And then of course for customer care, post purchase and all that, it's also important to tie your customer care agent, as we've seen with IHG, within the same agents, right? So you have an end-to-end experience that can be that brands can leverage again within the same agent.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Carter, at IHG, are you using for marketing for outbound? Are you considering using it for that, or is it mainly on the inbound?
Oh no, definitely considering it. So yeah, I'm in a team that's called digital service. So marketing is outside of our bailiwick, but there already has been a lot of interest expressed in using it for marketing. The use case that we're excited about, and this is going to take some time because of some older back end systems that we have that are foundational to offering what we want to do. As those get upgraded, then we see some opportunities. So the thing that we're so excited about doing, um, imagine you have flown from, I live in Alexandria, Virginia. You've flown from Alexandria to the UK. You've arrived at 7 o'clock in the morning. You got no sleep on the flight. You get to the Intercontinental Park Lane, and you would love to check into your room and immediately take a shower and maybe a little nap before you go out and go to your meetings. And most hotels have a check-in policy at 3 o'clock, not 7 in the morning, and so you kind of have to be like, oh, I'm going to go find a coffee shop and blah blah blah. We want to do room is ready. That is one of our most exciting things because if the room does become available more quickly, we would love to send you an outbound RCS message that says, "Hey, your room is ready," and then maybe there's a response, maybe one's not needed, but uh, but there's a great example. It's not marketing, but it is a great example of outbounding important information, and that that's one that we're really excited about. And maybe it does morph. Maybe again, this is kind of more specific to a particular stay, but maybe the front desk says, "Hey, your room's not going to be ready till 3, but I have a slightly larger room, and it's only $30 euro more a night, and I can give that to you right now if you'd like to come check in right now." And so we're seeing those kinds of possibilities as well, which then also result in some upselling, and obviously everybody loves an upsell.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. And that that leads to, I think I want to let Alex tell us a little bit more, like what's on the horizon for Google RCS for Business. So what are some of the new exciting things that you all are working on? And share with us kind of the future, because I think we've gone in deep on all the different things it can do now. But what are some of the new things that are coming out that brands should be aware of?
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about feature snippet, which is one of the entry points format that we have enabled recently. We are actually testing a lot of them. So you probably heard about web results at Quiq, which is one where a brand will be able to leverage, a search result for search queries which are actually related to your business. So say someone that types like, I don't know, Black Friday deals, and they're interested, and your brand, without doing any advertising, can show with this click to message extension, just because it's related to that idea of Black Friday deal. We also have another one which is called site link, which is for branded queries. So and I think this is probably, maybe we saw it before, but the site link is where a customer interested in a particular brand, so very strong intent in engaging with your brand, is searching on Google, and then you will see this click to message extension as well. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we have different entry points with very different marketing objectives: feature snippet, branded queries, brand related queries, business related queries, and you will see more and more of these entry points on search and maps. And for localized queries as well, we are going to launch Google Maps very, very soon with this click to message extension. So this is really what I'm really excited about, and this is going to be 2026 and onwards, where we are really trying to bridge that gap again between the agent discoverability and search. Thanks to search, I should say. Another point is, there's evolution on the protocol, right? So RCS is an industry protocol, so you'll see more and more features, within the RCS, available in RCS. And again, the very cool thing is that because it's an industry standard, it's available. It's going to be pushed on iOS and Google Message at the same time. So it's not like you have a discrepancy between the two channels. It's the same protocol, so consistently deployed across channels. And lastly, I'd like to mention also one of these entry points that we're launching for Google advertisers is that we're also testing these entry points in message ads, as we call it. So if you're a Google customer, an advertiser on Google, you can actually now set up, and we are piloting this right now. You can set up our these entry points within your AdWords account, and so this requires a little bit of work, and we're happy to work with you on that if you're interested. But that's really the exciting piece, where we are bridging, digital marketing on Google and this RCS new agentic experiences. So yeah, I believe this is the future, and that's what I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and as a marketer, the sort of ad words click to message is super compelling. Obviously, we're used to sort of old school where someone clicks on an ad and then they fill out a form and then it goes through a routing and la la la, and then
Right.
finally maybe an SDR calls them. But the idea that someone in the moment where they say, God, that's something I really want, or that's something I need, or something I want to learn about, and immediately can start talking to an AI agent, oh, well, what's it for? What are you looking for? How can I help you? Like that
Yeah.
immediacy of, I
Hmm.
have a question, I have a thought,
Actually,
like
that's right.
now I'm going to have a conversation is
Yeah, yeah.
fabulous.
You capture the lead from the user when the intent is at its highest, right? As we say, so you're
Exactly. Yeah.
interested in your brand or your business, and so you can hold them into a dynamic conversation, as opposed to a static, browsing on their website. Which is, not saying that the other one is not, compelling either for a user, because you might also like to browse the website. But I mean, having the opportunity to have this dynamic experience is also really cool.
And very personalized because you can ask your specific questions that are specific to you and what you want instead of like, well, let me look through the website and try to find
Yeah.
the answer. It's like I can talk to someone, an AI someone, but a someone. So it's a really unique feature that I'm excited to see roll out more broadly, but very exciting. So couple of questions. Let's go to some questions. So one that I think we just hit on. So Alex, you just mentioned feature snippet again.
Yeah.
And someone has asked, can you describe exactly what a feature snippet is?
Oh, feature snippet is just the format. So there's three organic entry points format. Featured snippets is the format entry point dedicated to customer care. So we saw an example just before. You have featured snippet that shows below the click to dialer extension and above the click to browser. And so it's just a format that's dedicated to customer care. So that will show only on customer care queries, such as IHG customer care.
Perfect. Yes. And in the video we showed earlier, that actually was a featured snippet. So that is kind of the experience
Yeah, it's
that
a Google
someone would have.
denomination. It's a Google denomination like featured snippet. We again the other formats are web results for business related queries and site link for branded queries. So that's for organic, so free web. And then for paid search, we have message ads, which is also the entry points for advertisers.
Perfect. And I think to me this relates to this is a good question. So we had talked about how brands are sort of starting with a little and then growing over time into all the functionality. And a question that Thomas asked, which I think will represents what a lot of consumers may feel is I would be nervous. It feels like the early days of shopping online. Am I secure? Am I being scammed? Can do you have feedback from customers on this? And what's your approach to address this concern? And maybe we'll start with Carter, but I'm sure Alex, you're meeting with many brands that may have
Yeah.
these concerns or may be worried about their customers feeling this way.
I'm not certain we were able to show it in the video, but here's what I'll say. It's happening in an IHG branded window. There's a check mark next to the IHG brand that basically Google has verified that this person is IHG. Similar to sometimes you see like in Twitter, you see a little blue thing that says this person is really this person. So, I mean, I think that's step number one. And that's not the only branding. I mean, you can click on the IHG brand in the top of the in the top of the messaging UI, and you'll see even more information about IHG. There'll be even more pictures of properties we have and so forth. So that definitely instills confidence. Like the fraudsters don't have a certified by Google check mark next to their logo. And then, we certainly deal with a lot of PII. You got to tell us your name and your telephone number, or maybe you don't have to tell us telephone number, but you might have to tell us your address or your One Rewards number or other things that could be considered sensitive. But this is happening in a secure channel, right? So you want to talk about an insecure channel where you don't want to be sending this stuff. That is the very definition of SMS. Like, do not put anything in SMS that you don't assume is already going to go out to the rest of the world. So I think that also helps. I think maybe there's a certain amount of trust to help you make the leap, but it's a whole lot easier to make that trust when you see all this obvious IHG branding and it looks familiar if you've interacted with us before. And so we really haven't found much resistance to that.
Yeah.
And
Something
again,
that I would add on that is that for PHI, for health information, and PII, actually some brands especially in the healthcare industry, they like to bring the user to their website, and there's a cool format that is called WebView that you can call from RCS, which is a 3/4 kind of window that shows on top of the agent. And so with the zero integration, you can bring the user from RCS, from their checkout into a logged in experience onto the website, and then go back to the agent without having to share anything within this channel. So I would say this is an elegant way to if your concern is about sharing PII and PHI within the agent, to avoid that.
Yeah, and it does feel like these are all Google RCS is offering basically a solution that is increasing trust, that is making it easier for people to trust what they're what they're interacting with and what they're seeing. Okay, so a couple other questions. So here's another one from Thomas. Do you find that some customers, this is for Carter, do you find some that customers start a conversation in the morning to make a reservation, finish later in the day? Can you manage this type of transaction, or does the customer start from the beginning again? And I think you've said this, but let's say it again.
No, and this is all credit to how Quiq manages asynchronous conversations. I'm not aware of how other platforms do it. Presumably they do, maybe not as elegantly as Quiq does. But yeah, so there's this whole concept in asynchronous messaging on the Quiq platform that conversations go inactive. And inactive conversations are not managed by the agent. The agent doesn't have to click a button and say, "Oh, this one went inactive." There are system timers, and so after a period of inactivity, Quiq says this looks like a conversation that's gone dormant, an inactive conversation, and it doesn't remove it from the platform. It moves it down to a queue that the agent can see, and he or she can have multiple inactive conversations. And those just sit there, and then when the customer comes back and says something, it moves it back into the queue for the agent. So we try as much as possible to keep those interactive conversations with the agents that they started with, in the hopes that they can just kind of pick up the dialogue and continue. But then there's all these foolproof ways, like if the agent left for the end of the day and the customer comes back an hour after that, quickly grabs that conversation and moves it to the next available agent. So it goes into their queue. Quiq does this brilliant job of summarizing conversations. So if another agent picks it up, they don't have to go back and scroll up and down and read the entire transcript. They get this really beautiful AI summary of what the conversation was about. That really helps our agents from having to go back and say, like, well, what was this about again? So yes, I would not say the majority of them have that much of a gap between first interaction and final interaction, but a conversation can stay active. Now I'm racking my brains. I think for 12 hours. And so if after 12 hours it's still inactive, we close the conversation. But that doesn't necessarily look like anything on the customer side. It just means it's out of the queue. It's out of the workload that we're trying to manage. And so 2 days later, if the customer comes back and starts again, it doesn't look any different on their end, and it just goes to the next available agent. And again, all these other things we have, like the transcript summaries, help that next agent kind of get back up to speed. So there's no disconnect button in a messaging interaction. That's by plan. These can go interactive because you might have gotten distracted or whatever. But while it may not be active on the Quiq platform, there's nothing that prevents you from going and typing another message, and that just opens up everything again at exactly the same spot where it was left off. So it is again another example of the beauty of asynchronous conversations.
Very, very cool. All right, and we've got a couple of final questions, and I think they're mostly for Alex. A lot of them are around pricing. Is there going to be a price per message or conversation in A2P, or as with WhatsApp to message? Is then price embedded in search? And then another one which is similar, cost associated, cost per interaction,
Yeah. So yeah,
etc.
good
What can
questions.
you say about that?
Yeah, very good question. So yeah, actually, outside of the US, carriers have defined the same price per session, which is a 24-hour session, including unlimited number of MO and MT within it. And that conversation is triggered by the response from the initial message. So your brand, you're sending your first MT, outreach to a user, and then the user will respond, and within 24 hours, it has to be within 24 hours, then it will trigger the session of 24 hours. So that's the model that's universally approved outside of the US. The US have a completely different, I should say, definition, which is conversation is a combination of four either MO and MT within the same session, and so it's triggered by like 3 or 4 interactions before, as opposed to one message in the other country. So I think what they're trying to do is really define a session or a conversation as more of a real conversation, as opposed to just one initial message. So it's being tested right now in the US, and so actually as we speak, they roll it out. In terms of pricing, I mean, I don't know exactly how much they charge for it, but usually what we've been recommending actually in other markets is that there's a price parity with SMS, so there's no like barrier for brands to adopt it. And so like SMS, as we call it, like SMS to basic message should be the same price, just text, right? And so when you go from when you include like rich content such as rich card, then it goes like you apply like a 40% premium to basic message. So we're trying, I mean, that's kind of applied in other markets. Again, very different in the US. So I don't know in which market you're based from, but that's kind of a long answer to say that it's work in progress and being tested in the US.
Awesome. Awesome. And so we just have 30 seconds left. So I'll
That's
ask the final question, which is, and I'll start with Alex. What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone considering RCS for their brand? And then we'll go to Carter after Alex.
Well, yeah. So I would say just start, upgrading your existing campaigns. And if you're really, when you start to get excited and get, good results, actually treat RCS like a new channel, right? Allocate specific budget to that because it can become really, really compelling for your brand's objectives.
Awesome. And Carter, final words?
Well, don't start with RCS out of your IVR. It does not show well. I mean, it's important and you get a lot of volume, but it's kind of hard to. Featured snippets lit up our executive team. And so if you're starting out, do featured snippets, show it to your execs. They will love it. And then go get your workforce management team on board who are going to grumble about like, oh, I got to find more staffing for a new queue, blah, blah, blah. But once you got executive leadership bought in, then somehow those other things start to kind of fall into place pretty quickly. It is a great wow factor. It speaks to exactly the kinds of things that senior leadership is looking to accomplish. Elevating the brand, getting it out in front of more people, getting a residual foothold on the device that's branded. I mean, it is just it doesn't, you don't have to explain it at all. They get it immediately, and then use that to build the momentum you need to go start opening up other entry points and really start leveraging up your messaging offering.
Brilliant. Excellent advice. Well, let me thank Alex from Google, Carter from IHG Hotels. This has been a ton of fun. I'm Jen from Quiq. Certainly reach out for those in the audience. Feel free to reach out to us at Quiq or Google or even Carter and ask more questions. We're happy to continue the conversation outside this webinar, but really appreciate everyone's time. Hope you enjoyed it and thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.